The state of stress is given in this problem, so if we plot this in Mohr space, Mohr circle, and we plot the right side of the box, then circle is going to look something like this. The right side of the box has a x-coordinate of -20, a y-coordinate of -60. So that's somewhere about right here. -20, -60. The top of the box is going to be a +90, +60. So probably somewhere about right here. Okay. Of course, if we plot the left side, it would give us the same point as the right side. If we plot the bottom, it would give us the same point as the top. So drawing a straight line between these two, that gives us the diameter of the circle. The center ends up being right there on the horizontal axis. And if we spin these points around and make the circle, Mohr circle, something like this. Alright, well, not entirely pretty, but gets the point across. Okay, we're looking for the principal stresses. So the major principal stress would be the point all the way to the right. This is sigma 1. The point all the way to the left would be sigma 3. Okay, and it looks like from the current orientation where we're at, we're going to have to rotate clockwise 2 theta p. P for the subscript of to the principal planes. It looks like we're going to have to rotate clockwise that amount in order to get to the principal planes to where sigma 1 and sigma 3 are. Okay, so again, Mohr circle, all you need to know is where's the center, where's the radius, and then you're home free from that point. So where's the center? Easiest way to do that is take the average of the two normal stress values. So it would be 90 plus -20 divided by 2. That gives us 35. So the center coordinate would be 35, and then always 0 would be the y-coordinate. It's always going to be on the horizontal axis. The radius of the circle, oops. If we take a look at the triangle formed between the radius, if we drop a straight line down from our coordinate 90, 60, and then we look at the x-axis, then the hypotenuse is a radius up here, radius. The vertical leg is going to be the y-coordinate of 60. The horizontal leg is going to be the difference between the x-coordinate 90 minus the x-coordinate of the center 35. And that gives us a value of 55. So the radius would be the square root of the sum of the squares, 60 squared plus 55 squared, and that ends up being about 81.4. As far as the orientation to the principal planes, 2 theta p, we can do a little bit of trig. So 2 theta p is going to be equal to the inverse tangent of 60 over 55, which gives us 47.5. And then theta p then would be equal to half of that, about 23.7 degrees. As far as the principal stresses, sigma 1 would be the center coordinate plus a radius. That's 35 plus 81.4. Oh boy, that's annoying. Oh. That gives us 116.4. Sigma 3 is a center minus a radius, which when you subtract off the 81.4, that gives you negative 46.4. And those are in megapascals. If you were to plot the state of stress, let me see, so my little cube is going to rotate clockwise 23.7. So something like that. Here's 23.7 degrees on my element. And my major principal stress, the major principal stress came from the 90-60 coordinates. So that was the top of the box that rotated clockwise and went to sigma 1. So the top of the box rotating clockwise ends up being this face right here. And that turned out to be a positive 116.4. megapascals. Of course, you have tension on the other side. The other face, that plotted as the negative 20, negative 60, and when that rotates clockwise, it goes to sigma 3. So when this face rotates clockwise, it ends up being right here. And that was a negative 46.4 or 46.4 in compression. Okay, so that is the state of stress on the principal planes. A little bit more than what they asked for, but that's okay. Next part is to find the max shear stress. So we'll do the same thing. Let me get rid of some of this. And the maximum shear stress, when you're looking at Mohr's circle, you can see that the max shear stress is going to be at the top of the circle, which is right above the center. So if I follow this straight up, we're looking at tau max. And then, of course, you know, the bottom is the minimum, but it's negative, but it's the same exact magnitude. So really we're looking for that orientation. And notice from where we're currently at, we're not rotating clockwise now. Probably the fastest way to get there is to rotate counterclockwise, and I'll just call that 2 theta instead of theta p. So just from the geometry of the circle over there, we can say that 2 theta is going to be equal to 90 degrees minus 2 theta p. Or if you go ahead and divide by 2, you can just say that theta is going to be 45 degrees minus theta p, where theta p was, what, 23.7? So we end up getting 21.3 degrees. And the max shear stress, often referred to as the maximum in-plane shear stress, and the reason we use in plane is because that's just within this 2D plane. As you rotate this element within this 2D plane, that should be the maximum. Of course, it is possible to rotate it in 3 dimensions, and it would be a little bit different, but at least within this plane, the max in-plane shear stress you see is just simply the radius of the circle, which we ended up getting a radius of 81.4 megapascals. So if I wanted to plot the state of stress rotated counterclockwise at 21.3, let's see, it would look something like get rid of a little bit of this work. Looks something like this. The box rotated counterclockwise .3 degrees would look like that. So the top of the box, which was the coordinate of positive 90, positive 60, rotates counterclockwise, ends up being this face right here. And on that face, if we follow on Mohr's circle, that 90-20 rotates clockwise and ends up at the top of the box, which is a positive value. So that'd be a positive 81.4. Remember the sign convention for a positive shear stress. It's positive, at least the sign convention we're using is positive makes the segment spin clockwise, or the little box spin clockwise. So my shear stress would look like that, 81.4 megapascals. Of course, on the opposite side, it would oppose. And then, of course, we know which way it's going to act on the other two sides, but if you want to follow this through, you could look at the coordinates, how the left and right side of the box plot. And those coordinates ended up being this bottom point, -20, -60. And when that rotates counterclockwise, it ends up down at the bottom of the circle, which would be negative. Okay, so this right side of the box, when it rotates counterclockwise, ends up being this guy right here. And that face would have a negative 81.4, and negative makes the box spin counterclockwise, so that means the arrowhead would be pointed that way. And then on the other side, of course, it would be the opposite. And notice you get your head-to-head, tail-to-tail complementary shear stresses, so that's what the shear stresses would look like. Not entirely done, because notice that this doesn't just transform into pure shear. Sure, you get a shear stress of 81.4. However, there is an x-coordinate that accompanies that maximum in-plane shear stress. And notice the x-coordinate for both points, top and bottom of the circle, is really just the center point. And that is a positive 35 for both. So that means that the normal stress on both faces, both directions, ends up being 35 megapascals. And the significance of that, I guess the thing you can say is, for the principal planes, whenever you rotate to find your major and minor principal stress like we previously did, you completely eliminate all of your shear stress. Shear stress goes to 0. However, if you're looking for the maximum in-plane shear stress, that's 45 degrees away from your principal planes. And though you get your maximum in-plane shear stress, you do not necessarily get rid of all of your normal stresses. But what you can say is your normal stress will be the same all the way around. And in this case, it ended up being in tension, 35 megapascals.